Yo, it's live. Maybe. I think it is live. We are so... Toke. Alright, yeah, sure. I'm live, that's right. I am in a state of what was it called? In a great, it's not dissonance, it's dichotomy maybe? Or like I am almost said I'm bipolar. I don't think that's exactly what I intended to say, but the point is I'm both tired and also really hyped to do things. So we'll see how it goes. If I crash in like 15 minutes and then require immediate horizontal positioning, then it will happen, and otherwise we're gonna be fine. Maybe. Got some tea. Hello, sir. I can't do accents. I can barely do English. You can't expect me to do accents. This is not happening. No. Right. Anyway, have you ever looked at this like water and noticed that there's like the one part of it that's like this specific part here that looks kind of decent, and then the rest of it looks like absolute garbage? If you haven't, then that's your problem, but I have. And I like... Oh, I accidentally resized the window. That's wonderful. Yeah, hopefully that didn't go too badly. Anyway, have you ever heard of the Fresnel effect? The Fresnel effect is the effect that basically says, and I'm going to utilize the fact that I can draw things to showcase it. So imagine this is the surface of the water seen from the side, and this is you looking. You are this guy. You are looking. You have a top hat for some reason, and if you are looking at the water close by, right? This is the reflection angle. And you're gonna be seeing a lot more under the surface than when you look in this direction. It's a very grazing angle, and you are going to be seeing a lot more of what is reflected versus what is under the water. And this effect is entirely missing from from this water, which is why far away it looks kind of acceptable, and then nearby it looks like a mess of blobs that doesn't make any sense. So that's for your information. We are going to be fixing that, hopefully. We'll see how we'll see how well I'll manage, but that's one thing. And the second thing is I've got to adjust the colors on this a little bit, because I run a very simple like color correction on it on the last export, and I've basically noticed that this is too dark. Like the entire image is too dark, and lots of parts of it are not saturated enough. So I'm gonna run a little bit of correction on some layers. Like this already. This is already huge, right? I just got a new style which doesn't use line art, and I desperately need tips. Well, I can probably pull something out from questionable levels of experience. I would say, so first tip, because you want to start with a sketch, you don't want to freebase blobby shapes. Usually you do want to start with a sketch, so don't really bother having line art first. If you are going to do lineless, you don't have to be very perfect with the sketch. You can kind of afford to scratch some lines over, and then you will figure out what the actual exact shape needs to be later. But an important tip I've heard for that is you want to be you want to basically fill the lines So okay, hold on, let me illustrate. If you have some lines, right? Let's say you, hold on, this is too thick. I'm used to thick lines. So let's say you sketch like a very messy circle, right? If you want to turn it into color, what you want to do is you want to make sure to color the outside to the outside of the line. So you see, I'm not ending here. Maybe I would maybe end here because the line is kind of out there. But generally, you want to be on the outside of the line. And the reason for that is the very furthest border is kind of what defines the shape. And if you go for the inside line and then you turn off the lines, you are likely to end up with a shape that doesn't look quite the same as it used to look in lines. And there's more fiddling to be done, of course, but that is, I think, about... That is a very nice tip I've gotten at some point that I think is worth sharing. And then it's a matter of trial and error, really. You are not getting away from that. Basically, no matter what you try, you are not getting away from trial and error. So, draw things, you know, turn off the lines. I started this with a sketch, right? So I'm kind of starting with a sketch, but then after the sketch is basically filled, then I turn off the sketch and I start working on the shapes by themselves without the lines, because when you have the lines constantly on, it influences how you actually see the picture. So you wanna make sure to do things with and without the lines, as opposed to trying to like constantly rely on them. And don't be afraid to stray away from the lines you've drawn. If the lines have, if it turns out that the lines maybe should be adjusted, should be changed, then don't be afraid to do exactly that. Adjust them, change them. You know, whatever you feel needs to be done with them, you should absolutely go for that. Okay, I'm adjusting these. I'm thinking maybe not that dark, but yeah, I'm thinking I wanna have more of an atmosphere here in the background. So like you see how these are very gray, and if I turn them much more green, they still seem like they are kind of behind fog on that layer, or like, you know, like there's light being scattered around. And it adds a lot more kind of life to the scene, except these two colors don't look good together, which I wonder if this is this is a different color, so we'll probably wanna do this, wanna do that, and then we just quickly replace this color with this. Boom. And now I'm wondering if I have if I sampled the layer or the... No, I sampled the layer. Okay, that's fine. Never mind. Like if you like gave me something, as in like gave me something you've done, I could probably review it, maybe like point out what I see about it. That could be helpful. Maybe I'll, if I come up with some more like additional generic tips, then I'll let you know. For now, these are like the main thoughts I'm having on the topic. Oh yeah, okay. If you are going for lineless as well, you want to pay close attention to how you pick colors and how you pick shades and how you pick. So you're gonna want to operate with contrast. You're gonna want to operate with contrast a lot. So, like if you have, for example, here, right? You have the bright blue water on the background of, you know, slightly desaturated and not that dark brown, and then the foreground is a more saturated darker brown, and that helps communicate that there's 3 layers to this section, right? You have a section, and you see that there's 3 layers on top of it. And this is like a very stark example, but the basic idea is kind of like here. You wanna hint at the shape of things with kind of where you place your colors and where you have the edges between them. I don't know how much you are blending versus doing like sharp like sharp areas, because for me it's zero blending whatsoever. But you wanna hint at the shape of things with how you place color and saturation and differences. You can introduce texture kind of like here by having colors of similar value and saturation, and then you can separate different areas between these by doing a lot of contrast. And that and if something like feels like it blends together when it shouldn't be, then maybe that's the place you want to rethink. Or maybe I want to use a different color, maybe I want to saturate this more, or maybe something else. I don't know. Yeah, at me and I'll try my best to deliver some feedback, because I think it's generally hard to get feedback. Usually people don't do that. Some people like flat out do not want feedback often. It's like the whole don't judge idea, which is kind of like, no. I disagree. Do judge and give me feedback, please. I think once you get over the like initial awkward feeling from being judged and being, compared and having feedback delivered and maybe harsh criticism even, then it's only downhill from there. Because like, congratulations, you've gotten over the biggest problem, and now you get to actually enjoy all the benefits of having feedback, which is you get to do better stuff. Gotta tank some damage to your ego and then you're good to go. At least that's my view on it. I generally think we as a society, as stupidly profound as that might sound for a random drawing stream where I don't know what I'm doing, we as a society generally tend towards not enough feedback, or maybe like hard to generalize it too much. I don't want to generalize it too hard, but yeah, I would say in general there's way more of not enough feedback than there is like somebody's being overly critical of things. Feedback is necessary to suck less, absolutely. Like, you can go a long way with, kind of giving yourself feedback, but a fresh perspective is very valuable. And basically almost anything anybody, like if somebody actually decides to give you the time of day, it doesn't really matter. Their skill level doesn't really matter all that much. Like, of course, it's appreciated if somebody knowledgeable gives you feedback in a way that, it's like, oh, this is exactly what you did wrong right here. I can see it because I have experience and I can tell you, like, you change this and it's going to look much better. Like, that's great. But then even just simple feedback of like, why is this like this? It's like I got asked, it's like, why are you drawing in 16:9 actually? And I was like, that's a good question. There actually is no good reason for me drawing in 16:9. It's just because that's the resolution of my desktop monitor, but I might as well swap the aspect ratio. And that's how I ended up doing 21:9 as I'm doing now. It's like just a random thought. Like, the person giving feedback probably doesn't think much of it in that terms, but it's immensely helpful because it's new thought and a fresh pair of eyes, and then you can extrapolate anything you want out of that, basically anything you need. So TLDR, if somebody comes to you and shows something, it's like, oh, I did this thing, what do you think? Then yeah, do that. Tell them. Not to be too preachy about it, but I support that movement. That's what I try to do whenever somebody like comes to me with something they've done. That's what I try to not just say like, I like it, I don't like it. I want to say at least one reason for why I like it or dislike it, or like pick out a part of it that I like in particular, like more than other parts, and I want to like focus attention on that and tell them, it's like, yes, this, I really like what you did with this thing, right? Or maybe like, this is great, but there's like a, I don't know, you missed some pixels here and it's really off-putting because there's a hole in the picture or whatever, like anything. I hope people appreciate it because it's hard to gauge sometimes. It's like, hello, am I helping or am I just annoying you? Asking for a friend, of course. I would never ask such a question directly. Would never happen. Boom. Alright, that's a little bit of cleanup on that. I'm wondering if maybe I should also adjust the foreground a little bit. Like a little brighter. No, not brighter, actually. It would need to be like some contrast, additional contrast. I don't want to oversaturate it. I think this is gonna be better. Yeah, it's making the grass a little greener. Whatever like elephant. I might have said that and not even noticed. Entirely possible. I'll believe anything. Like I'll almost believe any claims about somebody saying that I said something. Because I clearly am trying to like continue 5 thoughts at once when I'm talking, and it's turning out questionably at times. No, here's a question. I wonder, it's like, is it workaholic if you're having fun? You know? Because I kind of feel like that sometimes where I'm really hyped to do a lot of things, and I'm just, I feel like a lot of the time I'm just pushing against my natural limit of what my body can actually support me doing. As in, it's like, yeah, I'd like to, I'd like to do a bunch of things. I'd like to, I like to draw. I'd like to program. I like to move progress forward on a lot of different projects. Let's actually duplicate this and make it a backup so I can reference it later. Is this also on the water? No. Good. I'd like to, move a bunch forward, try again. Move a bunch of projects forward at the same time, and I'd like to also, also do this and also do that and record some stuff and stream and draw, depending on, however much inspiration I actually have at any given moment. And so I end up like, okay, but I do need to like slow down though, because I don't exactly want to like burn myself out on any of that, and I also don't want to be really like dry pushing. By dry pushing, I mean I don't want to be doing things which I don't really enjoy. I find it much more effective to kind of wait for a wave of inspiration for a particular project and then like throw myself into that for as long as that lasts. That's kind of how I go about it. It's been working fairly well. It certainly it doesn't work well with things that have like external deadlines, but that's not what I do it with. I do it with like my projects that don't have those strict deadlines, and I don't have to hit stuff because of course if you're gonna, okay, this is too intense. I've over intensified it, but there's still missing a bunch of layers. But yeah, I've been wondering if like, is this, am I gonna work myself into a grave at this rate? Is that what's happening? Because a lot of the time, right, I'd much rather do things than like engage in entertainment. A lot of the time, I've kind of stopped playing video games almost altogether. I've instead, like, I prefer putting a bunch more hours into coding or maybe into drawing or whatever else. I don't really have any drive to like watch movies and read books or whatever. I read books when I want to learn stuff. When I want to learn something that's in the book, that's when I sit down and I read the book, and otherwise I don't really want to do that for entertainment. And I'd much rather make and do things for entertainment than kind of watch. I don't know, thoughts. Sometimes when I'm drawing, I completely zone out and like draw without thinking of the drawing. Like I'm thinking of a whole different project and making another. It's kind of like that with these streams. Like I'm kind of I'm devoting a lot more actual like conscious effort into talking than I am actually drawing. A lot of what is happening in the drawing is kind of half spontaneous. As in, I kind of set a direction for myself. As in, like for now, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be adjusting the water, and this is what I'm gonna do for it. And then that's kind of what I'm doing, right? I'm adjusting it, and I'm not really throwing much like conscious effort into like spelling out in my head what I'm doing, as opposed to just putting the colors on the canvas where I think they belong. That type of beat. Workaholism is typically seized by burnout, so if you find yourself headed towards burnout, that's probably your answer. But I mean, I don't really know if I don't think I'm headed towards burnout, because I switch up what I do a bunch. Like, I don't constantly do the same thing over and over, as in, like, I grind because, like, oh, I must finish this project, right? That's not the approach I take. That's not to say that it is impossible to get burnout if you, like, whatever you want to, it's not that, right? But the idea is that's why the question, right? It's like, is it workaholism if you are having fun? Because, like, what's the difference between between a job and a hobby? If you are actually committed. Well, for me, I guess I could spell it out, because for me the difference between a hobby and a job is my job has deadlines and my hobby doesn't. So for a hobby, I have absolutely I don't have obligations to like finish things. I don't have an obligation to finish things by a certain date. So like if this project, for example, if I start feeling like I don't actually want to do this anymore, I'd just drop it. Like I'd just stop working on it, and then maybe come back to it months later, maybe not, maybe never. Like I don't give myself any kind of constraint like that. That's for me what the difference between the job and a hobby is, because in terms of actual effort put into it, I don't think I differentiate between the two. That's probably also because of the kind of job I do, which is like if you're in a small business and it's important for you to actually do things, then you want to put a lot more effort in naturally than you would in a job where you are working for someone else you don't really care about all that much. But like that's my differentiation. If you are not headed towards burnout, it's probably not workaholism. I'd think like towards burnout, the closest I have gotten to burnout is when there's something that is really complicated. I've like finished one of these recently where I took like 7 months to make a feature, like every day for 8 hours or like something around that. And I'm working on a feature that's really complex, at least for my level of thinking at the moment. So that's probably like the closest I've gotten, where it's become towards the end of it, it's become really difficult to actually work on it. But then once I actually completed it, then it's a massive. I got a massive speed upgrade, speed boost, and I started working a lot. Like it started going a lot better. Basically, everything started going smoothly. So I think there's also something there about the difference between maybe doing just difficult things for a long time versus actual burnout. Every time I get off of burnout, or however you say it, I come back with a completely new style. I don't think that's happened. That hasn't happened to me. I don't think. No, I don't think that's happened to me. I don't really switch all that much up. Like I feel like whatever I do, it develops over time more than I like switch things up radically. I feel like it just like kind of flows. I have like 70 different styles. It's like, do you have them though? As in, like, are you able to like pick whichever one and then draw in that style, or is it like you kind of draw things a certain way and then it switches, and then you are kind of drawing things in that different way until it switches again, and you don't really have much control over it? If you answer yeah, ye to that, then I assume is the former, the first thing I said. In that case, that's good, probably, right? You're just versatile. You can do a bunch of different things. I can pick styles, yeah, and that's pretty cool. Good stuff to work with, right? You can just, you know, do whatever is needed and then switch it up and do whatever is needed in another one. Even if you stick to one generally, then but you have the option, right? That's the kind of important part of it, because otherwise you are, if you are not, I talked about this before. If you don't know what you're doing, the learning is, you're learning a lot slower if it's not conscious. Having hobbies is sort of by definition necessary for burnout? Okay. I've got to find out what the definition of burnout is then. Maybe I'm just not understanding it correctly. Physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. Huh. Oh, for avoiding burnout. Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured that. Oh, I drew this on the wrong layer. That's fine. I'm sure no bad consequences will come of this at all. Fine, we are doing that. Actually, hold on. I can just multi-select the colors. I don't have to do that. What happened? I clicked on the transparent layer, didn't I? If you don't have hobbies, you will burn out. Yeah. Would you also define hobbies like, well, basically what I said? As in, that's the hobby is what you do, what you do kind of for yourself, or maybe like what the, I don't want to say that you have no standards for, because that is definitely not what I'm trying to say, but you get the idea, right? It's like the hobby is the thing you do. The hobby is what you do, like completely outside of. Why is this on this layer? Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Yes, that's a hobby. All right. So I guess I kind of worked my way into it, almost by definition. There you go. I figured out hobbies and I called it a different name. Which is fine, I guess. Yeah, I'm slow like that sometimes. It's fine. I'd like to say I'm slow but persistent. Is I think what I figured about myself is that I don't necessarily grasp things the fastest, or like I don't necessarily like go 0 to 100 particularly quickly, but like I can stick by things. I can do things over a long period of time. Or over a long time, I suppose. Long period of time is going to trigger someone most definitely. It's like I think that is like a stronger. I need to adjust these colors. Although I do wonder, because in terms of like learning, like I think it's almost kind of inevitable if you want to learn something deeply, is that you will learn it slowly. Like maybe, you know, there's like 500 IQ mega genius Albert Einstein himself over there who has figured out the secret to the life universe and everything, and he just doesn't have to go through like the normal human process of learning. But I do feel that in general, if you want to learn something to like a significant level of depth, like it requires a lot of time, because you can't just learn it from a book and you can't just be given the knowledge. You have to do it, and you have to kind of burn it into your brain. At risk of sounding like a, you know, like a pretentious elitist douchebag. This is not intended as like you can't do good things if you don't have my specific, I don't know, academic diploma, of course, because that's retarded as well. But the idea is that you need a certain familiarity with things. You need a certain I can't pronounce this word. Familiarity. I think familiarity is the correct pronunciation. Which one is it? Pronunciation. That's right, I think. You pronounce, but pronunciation. Yeah. Bloody hell. you need to be able to... You need the ability to solve problems in the domain. In the domain in which you are doing things. And the ability to solve problems you gain through experience mostly. Because it's not just about knowing, like it's not enough to know that you have certain tools. You also have to be able to use them, and you have to be able to connect them together, and you have to know when to not use them. And you also, and by knowing the tools, you also want to be aware of not just like, oh, this is the way this is the way that you should do it according to the notebook, but you want to also know, like, this is how the tool actually works and what effects it has. And because I know that, then now I can combine it with other things, and now I know I can like exclude this part of the process to save time sometimes, maybe. And it's also about the balance. You want to be able to like balance having the deep knowledge and engaging in it and doing things to the best of your ability, and then also doing things in a timely fashion, which is something I admittedly am far from figuring out. It's like, yeah, but you know, you can do that, and it's probably gonna be good and stuff like that and cool, but can you deliver that in like a week though, right? Because we have clients that depend on this feature, and we have to do it as fast as possible. It's like, but if I do it as fast as possible, then it's gonna be much worse. And then you kind of figure out over time, you figure out like shortcuts and macros. Macros as in like short, like beaten paths in knowledge. That's what I mean by that. That help you to do things faster and good at the same time. But all of this, like all of this expertise you kind of have to gain, takes a long time to actually acquire. So it's gonna take a while, is the point. I think the water is starting to look better. It's not great yet, but like it's definitely better than what we had before. Let's see, I have the backup. Yeah, if you zoom it out, it still needs a lot of work, but I think it looks better than what it used to. It's like closer to actually fooling, like if when zoomed out far enough, it's closer to actually fooling the brain into thinking that there's like reflections and water going on than the old one, which was just a lot of blobs. Or at least that's what I gaslight myself into believing. I think I'm gonna do it kind of the same way I did it before, where I'm going to have like the first pass, which is what I'm doing now. The first pass is going to be kind of rough and with like small lines, and it's gonna be kind of a mess. And then I do a second pass on it, and I generalize the ideas, and I kind of figure out what to do from that. That's kind of the plan. I need like a darker shade of this. Oh, this works. This is kind of like the side of the thing, and this is too dark a little bit. Like we want to be I think I want to be having some tones, because there's currently the transition between the colors in like this kind of area and the colors in this is way too harsh, and also this is, I think, way too dark as well. Like these need to be much brighter and much more blue. I think that's gonna do us good, because dark kind of implies there would be like shallow water with no, this dark just doesn't fit. I don't know what it implies, but it just doesn't fit, I think. So we're gonna shift it maybe in the direction of like dark blue, saturate it a lot. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you see kind of how much the value changes just by virtue of changing this color. That's kind of interesting. Maybe actually bring it towards teal, because that's the teal. This color is what the water would kind of be naturally. So I'm thinking maybe instead of going in this blue direction, I go in more of a teal direction for the water itself, and then I have like a little I think that's gonna fit better, but I can't even articulate why I think that. So for now, I think this is already better, I think, but that might be a recency bias. Nope, no, this is much better. Can immediately see that it is much better. So now I want to incorporate like these colors into like mix these with the background a little bit, like so there's a smoother blend between the two kinds of layers. So like here we want the darker colors. Now this is completely, I think, empty. Yeah, this is not at all on the same layer, so we want to do that, and we probably will want to pick a darker color in here for maybe more bluish. I'm thinking maybe more bluish and darker and less saturated, kind of, because I want to have this also represent like the little dirt cliff above it. It's like I want it to be visible that this, like there's a little difference in color on this side, although it might need a little more in the bright colors as well, because you gotta remember that it's water, and water reflects in all sorts of directions, especially the more wavy it is. It's gonna be at least somewhat wavy due to the waterfalls, right? Because the waterfalls disturb the water and blah blah blah. You get the point, hopefully. Maybe. We'll figure it out, perhaps. Right. This water looks better, but it's missing something still. Is it maybe that the blobs are too large? Still, like this is a massive like blob of the same color, so it kind of doesn't. I forgot the ears. Happens to the best of us. Maybe we shift this color a little bit, because this color is kind of like very blue. Although maybe it is good for it to be blue. Maybe it needs like one more shade, like this kind of blue. In like add a little bit of this blue and to break up some of these like blobs. Like this blob could be broken up by just adding this blue. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, now we are talking. Now we are talking. And then this darker blue, we probably want it like here a little bit. Because also want to take into account that brighter things are more likely to reflect than darker things. So I want to, where the water would reflect like the trees, I want there to be more of the watercolor. Like here you can see it, that this is like more darker and brown, and like all these colors kind of mixed with the blue. And then these two stripes, there's like two stripes of brightness like here and there, which this one's probably gonna go later, but I think this is a huge improvement so far in terms of water, although still not quite. I don't Still don't think it's quite there. I think the water is missing a potato. Of course, right. How could I have... If you think about it, these kind of look like potatoes. How could I have forgotten this crucial detail? Right? Something like that. Looks great. Please continue. This is the most true fact that's been spotted, like spoken. Anytime any of these streams happen, we must take into consideration potatoes, obviously. Okay, so now I'm thinking also this needs to be wrangled a little bit, because currently it's like horizontal blobs, and the horizontal blobs look too much like what the water looks like, because the water is horizontal blobs. And because of that, I'm thinking like, no, I'd like, I'd like these to be, I'd like the simple like texture of these stripes that I'm adding. I'd like that to define this way more than I don't want the grass to look the same as the water, and so I'm adding a little bit of like striping and basically changing the texture of the grass by just adding these lines to... You see? Like this looks immediately 1,000 times better, because it doesn't look like random blobs anymore. It actually looks like it has a texture. And it's such a simple change. I'm thinking this kind of thing is like where I would like this to kind of look like a mossy rock or something like that, but not yet sure how to accomplish it. So it's gonna stay like what it looks like right now until I figure something out. This is also a very simple and cheap way to kind of do grassy looking stuff. You just layer different colors with like striped patterns on top of one another, and then it very quickly starts looking like grass. I don't even have to do all that much of like in terms of actually shaping it. Depends on the style, of course, but like this is a very simple style, so of course it like works better with these, but this is also too dark. Like you can see that I added the grass later, and it doesn't quite blend in with the other things. Similarly around these rocks, it's like you can see that the darker like kind of shade around the rock isn't really natural, doesn't really fit. So like extending these to like layer it better on top of one another is a good way to kind of blend the rocks with the environment. I think you can already see it kind of happen here. And then presumably we want these to be a little bit more... Yeah, I wanna have this rock be a little more shaped than it was before. And then we might want to add... Oh, this is already darker, never mind. Maybe add a little bit of this. So like to suggest that there's some shadow being cast from the first rock to the second. Although I'm not a huge fan of this. Because this entire thing is kind of in the shade. So I'm not really sure. Maybe this is enough. I think this is enough. And I like this like jagged pattern on this, because it makes it feel like the rock is like, once again, the small little patterns on these like do a lot in terms of texturing, even if there's no texture, because how the Risk of Rain 2 does this very well. If you look at the like some screenshots of the game and you look at how it's shaded, it's like the textures are very flat, but the detail is added with basically how shaders work. So like normal maps make the surface look a little bumpy and reflective in different ways and like different proportions, and it creates detail despite the texture itself being very simple. That's kind of what I'm going for with this as well. Not saying that I'm any good at it, but you know. Something like that. I think this is already a massive improvement over the mess of random blobs we started with, which I don't have on a layer, but whatever. Alright, I'm thinking I'll also upgrade the characters a little bit before I go into, because the water got an upgrade already. I want to upgrade the background a little bit by adding some of these like cliffs. So you have a cliff here, and I think for like cohesion of the entire picture, I'd like some cliffs to be present in the background as well, so that it doesn't feel like there's like this one cliff, but rather that this is what the terrain in this place kind of looks like. And because like one piece of the picture is calling back to another piece of the picture, it kind of builds a placeness to the whole thing. So like it doesn't feel like, oh, somebody built a, you know, theater set on the left side and it's there to be a theater set, but rather this is what the environment is like, looks like. That's kind of what I'm going for. Or at least what I want to go for, because currently this none of it exists yet. Alright, let's do one more thing as well. This layer contains like a lot of different things, but I'd like to get this tree out of that layer. Yeah, and then boom and boom. I want to throw that on another layer, and then this... Where's the grass on? Grass is on this layer. They are all called background. Maybe it's time to change that. This is grass. This is the leaning tree. This is like the... That's right, I'm calling this layer potatoes. Be satisfied. Left tree. And then this background is the big trees. Right, this is new water. Underwater moss. This like doesn't do anything, basically, aside from like the one spot here. Probably change that. So the whole reason why I extracted the tree into a separate layer is so I can fix this annoying overlap here, where the layer that is clearly behind the tree is overlapping with the thing that's with the tree, and it looks horrible. Horrible. That's not how you say that. Horrible. So I wanted to fix that. Now it's fixed. Good, great, awesome, fantastic. Cheap improvement. Didn't require a whole lot of effort and looks a lot of better. A lot of better. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. That's how you say that. Good work. Alright, now we're kicking it into overdrive because I've run out of tea, officially. This tree is also kind of, speaking of tea, tree sounds kind of similar to tea, and then I don't have much in terms of this tree. What could I do? I could... Whoa. The hell? Wrong layer selected. These highlights kind of suck. Like this is very, like a very early version of it. And I need to bring it way more in line with the rest of it. I'm thinking much less saturation on it could do the trick. Maybe like shifting. Yeah, because a tree like this isn't glossy. Right? It doesn't like it doesn't. Yeah, it's not made of plastic. It needs a little texture, I think. I might, you know what? I'm going to throw this on a separate layer as well, because we can afford it, most definitely. As in, I've got like 32 gigs of RAM in this computer. It should be able to handle a little bit of additional tree detail. Okay, and this is the fallen tree. It's the final countdown. I don't know if that was something I said that triggered that, but whatever. Someone just gifted me a subscription for Colstmad ONL. Do not know what a Colstmad ONL is, but congratulations on your new subscription, I guess. Said you're out of tea. Oh yeah. Well, the tea has gone cold before that, so you know, maybe it's better to be out of tea than to have cold tea. Thoughts? Christmas, Santa Day. Gives me a subscription for Christmas? What? Hello. Welcome to the stream where we like paint things. Presumably. I don't know. I haven't seen the guy that was supposed to be painting, so I'm kind of just pretending. Maybe he'll show up at one point. Do you feeling this with this texture, maybe? Like you see? A little bit of texture. It goes a long way. My thoughts on this. We could even like introduce a little hole in it. Kind of like that. Maybe. I'm thinking that could happen. Oh yeah. Now we are doing it. We are doing it. We have like some holes in this and it's gonna look great. I need one more color between these two because this is a very harsh like change. We need something in between these two to kind of smooth it out. That's not smoothing it out, that's too dark. This is too saturated. This is too bread. Too bread. Always jot is good, I'm horrible at drawing. It's a matter of time. You can get here and you can get beyond it. Just a matter of how much time you put into it. I know that's just like cliche to say that, but it's true. As in, you really can. But you wanna actually, what's the like way to phrase this that is like functional? You wanna what do you wanna do with this? You wanna practice, but you wanna be smart about it. You wanna improve your, first and foremost, you wanna improve your eye and your brain and your mind. So like look for what makes something like look good versus look bad. And you want to start noticing that in your own work, and then you want to iteratively improve and just don't be afraid to throw things out and redo them until they work. It's like over and over again until you have a grasp on these things that is actually good enough for you to start maybe first trying some things. And that doesn't like it, there's no shortcut to it. You kind of, you know, it comes with time. Basically the only way to acquire some skills like this, where you just have to do it and think about it, and because it at the end of the day, it's you that needs to learn, and the you that needs to learn, you also need to learn it in a way that you can use it, and not just that you can, you know, recite it or pass like an ABCD test. So there's a lot of So I was talking about this before, but yeah, you basically have to spend time on it, and have to spend time on it until you acquire knowledge that is deep enough to that, so that you can do some things like faster. It builds over time. Wanted to get better 3 months ago, but watched clips on YouTube. I gave up. Want to try again, lazy like sloth. Well, small steps. That's another cliche thing to say, but I can maybe explain it. Idea is to not throw yourself at like some insane stuff. It's like, oh, I'm going to be like drawing, I don't know, for 3 hours a day every day for the next month. It's like, no. Like, you know, maybe set yourself a challenge. Like you could say like 15 minutes every day, but it doesn't have to even be that. It could be like drawing per week, as long as you are actually able to schedule the time and actually stick to it and do it. And then once you have a base, even if it's tiny, then it's much easier to expand than it is to like start and then immediately go to something very difficult. So like if you if your starting point is like 5 minutes a day, then it's much easier to expand the 5 minutes a day to 15 minutes a day than it is to start immediately with 15 minutes. And it's not even a joke, because it's not a joke that you could start as low as 5 minutes a day, because what matters is if you actually do it. Because when you do it, you start building habits, and when you start building habits, then it gets a lot easier to actually do things, because you don't have to think about them consciously and like expand conscious effort and energy into doing the thing. You just do it because because it's a habit, and then that unlocks your brain and your energy to focus on improving on what you do, as opposed to, you know, having all the energy being drained out by just doing it in the first place. Have you considered the potato and its way today? Well, I'll have you know, there's no escape from the potato, so the question is kind of rhetorical and a self-fulfilling prophecy at the same time, because by the mere mention of potatoes, you know, all that jazz, it's happened once again. The potatoes are upon me and I cannot escape. This rock looks bad. I'll be honest. I'll admit it. This rock looks bad, and I think there's a simple reason for that. It's just I've made it too. There you go. Already looks a lot better, just by virtue of it not being like a sandwich. Yeah, then we add a little bit of darkness here between the two, and we kind of blend it together with like other colors. Not too bad, not too great either. Maybe throw some like dark in this so it like separates these two a little bit better. And then like I had like a real dark shade of this. Yeah, like a real dark shade also. It's probably too dark a little bit. Maybe want to smooth it out, like on this side. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that. This looks a lot better. And then we might also smooth this out a little bit. Maybe? This could be something. Perhaps. Yeah, okay. Whoops, Flux came back on. We need to disable that because I want to see colors. It's in fact kind of important for me to see colors, considering the kind of work I'm doing. Right, this is so far a decent improvement. I think what I want to... There's two things I want to do. I want to do the characters, and I think that's what I'm gonna kind of do right now. Thanks, that helped me. I think I'll start drawing again, getting small habits into something. Yep. It's worth it. It'll take a while, like especially if you are just starting out. It'll take a while to kind of get into it and get to a level where it's a lot of fun. But once you do get to the level where it's a lot of fun, and you will probably also have fun along the way, then it becomes like a hell of a lot of fun. Like I'm happy to say that I've gotten to a level where I'm fairly happy with what I can do. It's of course by no means this is by no means like, oh, I'm perfect or anything like that. It's just I'm having a lot of fun with it. That's all I want to say. That's all I was trying to say. I just made it overly complicated for no reason. Alright, I have the character on another layer, because when I have the character on another layer, I can erase that. Then I can make that hide. And then we fill in the hole so that I don't have to worry about the background being weird when I do this. And then the character will just erase him a little bit near the edges so he blends in with the grass better. Could do that with a mask as well, but I think erasing is going to just be very simple and work well enough. This is the idea for this is like moss. That's what I'm trying to achieve with this kind of. I think that looks good enough. You watch anime? No, not really. No. I don't think I've watched a single anime. I might have seen a little bit of Death Note, like one episode or two. Because someone was showing it to me. Oh, and I've watched like a couple episodes of JoJo because of the same story, basically. Somebody showing it to me. That's the wrong layer once again. Is this on the wrong layer? Yes! Good work, buddy. You nailed it. I don't know. This guy, like my little character, it's like I don't know. I don't know what happened. Like what the inspiration even was for this guy. I've got no clue. Like you could say this like bit of hair sticking out the back of his head is kind of like anime styled, because that's the kind of like weird hair stuff that you see in anime. That might be where the thought is coming from. Something that style. I suppose, like there's definitely inspiration because anime is like everywhere these days. You can't really get away from the anime. It's and there's definitely parts of it that I like, but what I definitely do not like about anime is that a lot of it looks very generic. As in, it's, you know, it looks like the anime style, and I don't really like that. Because you know, I don't want to draw in an anime style. I wanna draw in a style that is kind of my own and looks fairly unique. Like, surely there's gonna be people that draw similar stuff, but there's just so many people that do anime style drawings that I just don't really have an interest in it. And of course, you know, prejudice against anime required, a necessity. You have to have it. We cannot remain neutral. We must destroy anime forever. You watch anything in free time, series, films, like what you love. I don't really. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the stream. It's like over time I've gravitated away from really watching stuff, and I much prefer just doing. I prefer to spend the time programming. I prefer to spend the time drawing. I don't really have like any interest in watching movies. I can't really muster the interest, or like watching, especially like TV shows. That's like so, those take so much time to watch, that I could spend on doing other things that almost feels like a crime to be doing that. So I don't do it. Is what I ended up with. Which, yeah, granted, I'm missing out. I'm missing out probably on cool stuff, on inspiration. Yeah, most definitely. Like, there's certainly arguments to be made there. Wouldn't disagree. And it's probably good to like consume some media from time to time as well. But maybe I can't convince myself of it yet. We'll work it out. We'll work it out later. Currently, that's not happening. I don't think. It's gonna be. What the hell is that sound? Huh. Really interesting, in a positive way, of course. You probably just think I'm a psychopath. I'm kidding, of course. But you know what? Don't really mind. Yeah, this is better, kinda. And I have him like kind of lean on his arm. Oh yeah, and I also want the like code to be kind of visible underneath here, like maybe like this. It's kind of iffy about it. Don't know about the hands, honestly. Like, I don't want to make them complicated, but I also don't want to just make them like circles. Maybe something like around this is a good compromise. And then maybe expand that a little bit in this direction. That's too far, but you get the point. And yeah, the grass kind of like going in here is a good touch on that. And I also want to give him a little bit of a, like, the funny stripes on face type beat. Which I don't know why I started doing that, but no, it's part of the character design, I guess. We can't stop. Contractually obligated to not stop doing that. That's more like it, alright? Then, like, yeah, give that a shade. Maybe, you know, separate the, like, hair a little bit. I'm winging it. I have no clue what I'm doing. You're like going out, forest traveling. You could travel somewhere. I don't really care about traveling a lot. I don't see the appeal. Like, this all in short, if I were to like boil it down to the reason, is because I think I feel things a lot less intensely than other people do. I just don't get much from a lot of things people seem to get like big emotional kicks from. I generally don't. Doesn't hit me all that much. So from that, I don't really have much interest in going out of my way to do it. Because there's just not much at the end of it that I would take away. Like, I like going on walks, I suppose, you know. I like going on walks, and whenever I go like exploring something that I'm actually interested in, like, oh, I want to see, like, I want to explore the city because it looks interesting. Like, I have done that for like a week during summer vacation. That kind of stuff, like, sure, sign me up, you know. I'm going to stop you right there. It's not that you don't feel things. Okay, I don't, maybe I'm like phrasing it wrong, but the idea is that, for example, like, a lot of people seem to have it in a way where they like go out and do things, and it brings them a lot of like they come out of it very like ecstatic and like energetic and stuff. I get the most energetic like that when I work on something I'm passionate about, when I'm like talking about a subject I want to talk about. That's where that comes in from for me. I don't really get much of it from like traveling or like seeing places or like doing particular activities. That's what I'm kind of you know. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because it's kind of like, feels like there's this set of kind of default things that people enjoy, and I feel like I don't I don't really have a lot of that in my set of things that I enjoy a lot. So I kind of end up with this like particular set of interests. And like, granted, you know, it's good to like go out and enjoy, sometimes try different things, but that's sometimes. No, I don't want to make it seem like there's anything wrong with me, because I don't think it's like with the same idea as with the like everything is autistic these days, as in like, oh, you like talking about subjects and you are not interested in like very shallow drama. It's like, oh well, you must be autistic then. It's like, no, maybe I'm just normal. You know, the same type beat applies here, where it's like, nah, I'm fine. I prefer like I prefer to be like this actually. Not gonna have to convince me a lot. You know, you're probably not gonna convince me of like, no, bro, but you should really start watching like 80 hours of TV series every week. Like, you should do it. It's important. You should do it. You have to do it. It's like, not really. Nah. You know? You know what normies are like. Yeah. That's a valid point. It's like, I you know what? I don't, maybe no. Maybe I'm gonna do my own thing and kind of figure it out on my own. And if you wanna like tag along and like share experiences, then fine, but barely anybody ever does, so just kinda learn to kinda accept it. It's like, yeah, it's rare to find someone who you can actually interact with in that way, on that level. And you know what? That's alright. Doesn't have to be that everyone is like this. It's like, works for people, but doesn't have to work for me necessarily. All right, I've made this too detailed and not blobby enough, and because of that, it now doesn't fit with the rest of the picture. So I'm going to ruin it a little bit, which I mean, like, you know, do a little bit of a. You could call it ruining it, but you could also call it stylization, and that way it doesn't sound as negative. You catch my drift on that? Parents often travel, but I'm not going with them, so I can visit them solo. Hobbies are pretty cool. How did you even get in programming? You're much normal than me. You know what? It's like, you can. I get the appeal of going places solo, because that's similar with me. Like, usually when somebody wants to go somewhere, they want to do things, and that's another thing I'm not very interested in. I'd much rather go to a place and just be in the place. So like, you know, I've, as I said, like, I've spent a week just going around the city and like looking at anything cool I wanted to look at. I just like stood there for a moment and like, you know, just took in the environment and like explored. That I have much more interest in that than I have in like visiting museums and like going to like, I don't know, theaters, whatever the hell, like exhibitions. I don't care about that a lot, so I understand. I don't, and it's also for other people as well, right? Because I don't want to be the one guy who on the trip who's like tagging along just because kind of has to. So a lot of the time I'd rather like go on my own, but I tag along as well sometimes because it's just fine. I don't mind it either way. It's not like a passionate hatred, you know. How did I get into programming? I don't really know. Like, part of it is probably because my dad is a programmer. We work together, so part of it is probably just through through absorption, kind of naturally. But then I took interest in it. I've read a bunch of books my dad had, and then I started with like Khan Academy, stuff like that. You could do like simple JavaScript programs on there, and that's kind of what I started with. Didn't really understand much of what didn't really understand much of what I was doing at the time, but it was, you know, interesting enough to make me stick through it with it. And then just over time I picked up different like tools and languages, and just I've always enjoyed it. It's always been like an interest of mine. I've you know, I've gravitated towards like knowing computer stuff in general, not just programming. So I know a bunch about like computer graphics, like various forms of programming, like games, whatnot. In general, how like computers work, down to the like closer to bare metal kinds of information. Like I kind of know that stuff just because I was always interested in the topic, but I don't know too much of it very deeply. And maybe I might be saying that mostly because I'm just aware of how much I don't know about these. Because there's a lot of there's like a lot of information to know about computers and technology, and even in programming you have so many languages and frameworks and approaches to like similar end products, right? Because you have, for example, like, oh, I'd like to make like a web service or something that listens to requests and responds and like does something for people, communicates with a database probably. And like even in that simple idea, there's like hundreds of ways you can approach it. And also one of the possibilities at like any given time is that you could just roll it on your own. You don't have to actually like use something that's ready made, which expands it even further, because every one of those things can be made in so many different ways, and all of them have like upsides and downsides. And one of the downsides is if you want to actually know all the things that there are, you have to spend like an impossible amount of time exploring and learning and reading and trying different things. So in my experience, I don't really make too many definitive statements about programming. Even when I talk to people who are like new and learning, I try and like say, it's like, okay, this, I know that this works because I've tried it, I know that this exists because I've heard of it, but I can't in good conscience tell you that, yeah, this is the right solution, because at the end of the day, that's a huge part of this job, is just you kind of have to figure it out on your own. Because the solution being right depends a lot on what you can and can't do and what you need it to do, etc., etc. Like there's such a big level. I'll make a definitive statement about programming. The programming job market is in decline. I do not know about that because I've never, thankfully, looked for a job in programming. So, because I work with my dad, so I've never had to bother with that. So I don't actually know what the state of the job market in programming is. But I can believe that. I mean, my experience, like our experience as we like do things, it seems that it is almost unbelievable how incompetent everybody in programming is. So I can imagine, I can easily imagine that there's a lot of people who are hired despite not knowing anything, and it's and then you end up with a market that is kind of shrinking, as in it's getting rid of the dead wood. That type beat. Although you might be talking about something else, so like, I don't know, if you want to elaborate, then elaborate. Or if that was just a definitive statement to get me riled up, then fair enough. I do not know. You can remove the words "in programming" from that statement. You know what? Fair enough. I am a huge proponent of nepotism. You know. Why would you ever hire anybody if you can just hire family members forever, huh? Have you ever thought about that? I bet you haven't. I bet you haven't to the level I have. What's the like shape of the hand where it's like placed down like this? I don't know how human I want to make these. Like, I certainly can't make them too human, but I'm thinking something like this. How much time does it take you to get into programming? Not saying me doing that in 100 years. That working for some program companies, doing a website, something like that. Well, I've certainly had a lot of help so for me it's going to be a lot of a different journey, because in terms of like raw programming skill, as in writing code, it's a much different story than learning to make software is not just about learning to write code. And in fact, like, the most important part of making software has almost nothing to do with code. Because and that's what I got the most help with from my dad, because he does things from the like this is gonna probably mean nothing to you, but not software, like business analysis. I don't know how to translate it into English, but the idea is that you, first and foremost, what you want to do is you want to get a very good idea of what your client needs, and to do that you have to be able to get like into what they do. You want to be able to map it out, to write it down in the form of like diagrams and such. And then from there you want to like figure out the system that they have, because they already have a system. It's just not a computer like programming application system. It's a system that works off of like people's knowledge and what like habits, etc. You want to figure out what that system does, and only after you've figured that out are you in a position to even start thinking about suggesting any kind of changes to the system to make it work better. So like that kind of process is really difficult to learn like from the outside, because like if you don't have somebody teaching you this, you're gonna have to learn it somehow. You're gonna have to gain the experience, and then it's very hard to actually find it, because if you are new, then people will not want to trust you with the responsibility of doing something that is this important, if you even find a company that does it in the first place. Because a lot of companies just eyeball it in a way where they just start coding, and then they code, and then they fix it later. And then everybody hates the software, but it doesn't matter, because you are like, they already paid for it, so they are kind of stuck with it. So it's like, yeah, the whole process of like creating software is getting into programming. You can probably do it fairly fast. You can probably get like a boot camp, something like that. I think these are fairly like common and popular nowadays, where they'll teach you how to code. They'll teach you how to like take existing libraries and connect them together. They'll teach you how to write some of your own code, kind of figure that stuff out. But what you probably will not get is you'll probably not get like a good introduction on how to solve problems for people, which is effectively this is what business boils down to in the end. But you just do different parts of it, because on this kind of front in which I work, it's a lot more of like conceptually helping people organize things. Is effectively what this job is about. It's like what we do is we do programs for the particular person or company that we are working for. Like, we don't do really reusable, like, we don't do like a general website template and then we sell that template to a bunch of people. We custom build software to make that particular client do their job better, is what we do. As like a general idea. And then the idea is that we do it better than anybody else. So it's like, if you want, if you are frustrated, and that is something we run into, that I kind of started from, is that a lot of the time you find out that a lot of the competition is horrible, and people will gladly pay for a program that just works, and one, and two, they'll pay for a program that has active developer support, as in we respond to what they need and we fix it, we update it, and we do it in a matter of like half an hour from when they report it. It's like we like fix any like errors that get thrown. We like fix them as soon as possible. Basically, like we automatically get them like report them to ourselves from the program, and we fix them as fast as possible. And we also, we also do whenever they need like a small little adjustment or whatever. We help them when they don't know, because it's a lot. Once again, it's a lot more than just programming, a lot more than just writing code. We are helping them conduct whatever they need to conduct, and then we figure out how to do it as fast as possible and as cheap as possible, effectively. So I'm really grateful that that I've like been given this opportunity to actually work in this, because it's a great job. Like, honestly. How much time do you two need to get one job done, one software? Day, weeks, months? How many customers? I have a lot of customers. We don't have that many customers. Like, over the years, there's been a couple, but these are fairly big projects, so they take, like, some of the software I've been working on for like 4 years, because it's continuously updated, adjusted, like stuff like that. We don't just leave it. It's like continuously being worked on. But like the core of a software can be like, it differs, but it can easily be like a 7-month project, for example. Like recently I had a module like that. That was just like one part of the system to figure out, but it's easily like several months in order to get all of that done. It's I think it's on the longer side, and I don't have that much comparison for like what people usually do, but I'd imagine that for a lot of people, the idea of working on one thing for several months straight sounds insane. That is a guess, an educated guess, I guess. Of course, I guess that's what I said in the first place. So, it's definitely on the longer side, and there's some difficulty definitely comes from that, because you kind of have to withstand the pressure that is, you first of all, you have to be able to actually deliver the software, which is difficult in and of itself. But then you also you can't over or underestimate the amount of time it's going to take you. Because we get money up front, or like in like segments, question mark. So you don't want to accidentally, you want to make sure that you get paid an amount of money that's enough to actually produce it, and then also, earn money on it, which is difficult when you are kind of predicting what the job is going to take, how much time it's going to take over several months of work. And that's also a skill that is very difficult to learn if you don't have somebody guiding you through it like I have. Okay, let's see what this looks like without the... Okay, that's an improvement, I think. 7 months, how high are you paid then? Worker salary monthly. It's basically... Like, I get paid for my time, that's how we have it arranged, but the way we earn money on this is we sign a contract, and then they pay us a big sum of money for the whole time we are working on it, and they deliver the money in different ways depending on how we actually sign the contract. So the payment is either distributed or in one big bunch, so we don't get paid continuously. We do get some money continuously per month for the work we are doing to keep the software up to date, running, fix bugs, adjust it, etc., etc. But in general, we just get, we get more money, but more rarely, is the idea behind this. It's a different model, and of course, there's its own risks that come with that, because it doesn't have the stability that comes from like because it's a small business. it's you know, what you get is what you put into it, and the smarter you are about it, and the more you are able to actually figure out ways to optimize it, optimize the process, get it down, get the time to execute things down, and build like software smarter and more maintainable, so it takes less time to like fix errors, etc. Like it all goes back into profit effectively. So like it's a high risk, high reward kind of situation where if you can do it, uh, if you can do it, it's great. And then, but you can also fail spectacularly. that kind of environment. I enjoy it a lot. Even though, well, I also, you know, probably would be a lot harder if it wasn't my dad in charge, because he's great at what he does. Like most definitely couldn't do it on my own. Like certainly not now. I'd have to learn a lot more to be able to do something like this on my own, because it's very difficult, and also the workload is immense for two people. Do you have a rival? Kinda do. It depends where, because oftentimes we run cleanup after other companies, where somebody's like had software done for them and it just doesn't work all that well. It's not really a city company. We do like whoever we find that needs work done, we do the work, so it's not really local. It's like we have competition, as in like there's a lot of people doing software, but at the same time we kind of don't have competition because of the specificity of what we do and how we do it. It's hard to compete with something like this if you are a large team, first of all, and then second of all, like our approach is kind of, we do take like this is bordering on bragging, but it's kind of necessary to explain that we put a lot of effort into making sure the software works well, and works exactly for what the customer needs it for. And this we are constantly surprised by this, but this is nowhere near the standard for the industry. Like it's a rarity that you have a company that takes this approach and like prioritize the customer, and it pays over the long time. No, it's just us two. There's nobody else. We can't currently afford anybody else. So it's just the two of us working on this. Like it's a small business, very small, you could even say. Yeah, but we are certainly surprised a lot of the time by like how little like we joke that our competition does our advertising for us, because they a lot of the time are we just started. No, we haven't. It's just hard to break. Like it's hard to break into hiring more people, because it's very expensive to hire people. Because you know, as long as there's the two of us, you know, then we can kind of like, there's a lot of costs that are simpler between the two of us. But when you hire someone, you have to support them, you have to support their family effectively, and you have to pay them a lot more in general. Like it's not easy to just get and hire more people. We would like to do it, it's just hard to kind of break into that barrier. Although we've been growing year by year, especially since I've joined and like started doing a lot of things. So you know what, hopefully it'll expand. Not impossible. Like we will see how it goes. Basically, there's not really many certainties with work like this, because like most of it is you take risks and you have no idea really. Like you have as well as you can plan it is, you know, is effectively the information you're working with. It's like however much you can gather and however much you can actually figure out and plan. That's how much information you have to work with. It's like difficult to figure out. I don't know. I'm certainly learning a lot, because there's no other way than to learn a lot. Also, this looks wrong, and I don't know why. Like, this looks horrendous. If something happened, could you get a job done solo? Depends on what. I could do a lot solo, but I'd have to also learn a whole lot, because we split work. We don't work on the same things. We specialize. I am much more on the programming side of I'm much more specialized in programming, so I'd have a harder time like doing all the customer relations stuff, like managing, talking to people, extracting important information, like doing all of that jazz. I'd probably have a lot. I'd probably have difficulty with that. I'd have to learn a lot very quickly. So, like, hopefully that doesn't happen too fast, because I am learning. It's just it takes time, as previously mentioned. I think I need a reference, but I've made it look a little better. Let's see, 3D model, please. I'd like to see this in 3D. Too many requests. I have made one request, thank you. Website, very cool. Can I get a model of this guy, please? But like one that is actually on model from the original game. Is that too much? Have they all been oh, I think this is the original model. Okay, this looks good, yeah. Okay, and then what's wrong with my thing? I made him thick. Made him thick beyond what he should be. I should also stop, definitely, for tonight. I almost hit midnight. I'm getting a little tired. You know what? Let's maybe leave him at this. Maybe. Actually, I want to try one thing. I want to try if I do this. Does it improve? No, it doesn't. It, in fact, makes it a lot worse. It has to be like thin, but it doesn't really make sense when it's thin. I think the pose is just wrong. Or like maybe... I'm doing something wrong with this. I'm not sure what it is, but I guess the part of it is that he is supposedly made out of light, so he shouldn't be really that heavily shaded, although he is shaded on this model, so what do I know? This is part of the leg. I don't know about this. I don't know. It's difficult. I don't have much experience drawing like animal-ish anatomy. So this is I'm kind of trying to figure it out as I go along, but it's going could be better, probably. Although not to sell myself too short, I also don't think I'm doing a particularly terrible job, so like, you know, this is kind of something. Maybe. With the like two-tone shading I've done now, it seems like it's mostly correct-ish. Yeah, I think this is decent. I think this is decent. Probably want to make him glow though before I finish. How do we... Just enjoying this conversation. Well, glad to have provided some entertainment. I'm gonna be streaming this, most likely streaming this further at like around the same time I started, which is 2 hours back from now is around when I started. That's around the time I generally get to stream because, you know, everything else is finished and I have nothing better to do for the day. So I stream. Tomorrow might happen depending on how tired I am, because the stream loses on quality significantly when I am falling asleep, like in the middle of it. So I'd rather avoid doing that. Okay. Yeah, thanks for chatting. It's certainly nice to have someone to listen and like ask questions and be interested in it, because it seems to be fairly rare. You know, seems like it's fairly difficult to find people that are like interested in that. All right. I think this has gone pretty good. I don't really have a version of this that I could flash on screen to compare what was before and what was after. But what I've done is I've adjusted the background to be much brighter. I've retouched the water, which I'm still not 100% happy with, but can probably figure it out next time, and like incremental improvement. These need a lot of work still. There's like improvements on the layers here that things don't overlap. Save as. I have the expert actually. You know what? You've convinced me. We are just doing the simplest thing I could do, which I can do, and it's very simple. We're just taking this, we're just dropping it in here and inserting it as a new layer. There we go. That's the original. That's the previous image. So this is what we started with. Can you stop showing the overlay? And these are the changes. I nerfed the waterfall, I think, a little too much. I'm gonna bring the foam a little bit up. Where's that layer? What is this? I wanna bring that layer up. Lots of detail. Yeah, I've done a bunch of cleanup and I've done detail and I've recolored a bunch of things, so the background looks a lot like more alive. It looked kind of now it looks very weird when I look at the old version. It looks desaturated and kind of dead in a way. Now I saturated it a little bit more, adjusted the shading on this, adjusted the water, adjusted this left side. It's like slowly inching towards something. I've added detail to the characters as well. Like, yeah, it's detailed, but actually the foreground I want to be a little bit more detailed. Ori looks weird because he's like drawn in a different style. Like my character blends in a little bit because I made him a little more blobby. He's like slightly too detailed for the environment, but only slightly. And then Ori is kind of like, he looks weird. I don't know why yet. I'll figure that out. That was too contrasty. I should bring back the white and the mushroom. That's probably a good point, because I yeeted that very hard. Because it looked weird. I still think it looks weird. It's just, let's get these colors on here for a moment. Maybe I can do it in like small spots. There's just 3 colors. Because I originally, when I drew these like spots, I intended these to be like highlights from between the trees, but because there's not really, these highlights are not very harsh anywhere else, they kind of didn't look like highlights properly. So I'm thinking if I can, what layer did I draw that on? Certainly not on the mushroom layer. Don't tell me it's on the highlight. It's not on the highlight. What layer is this on? This one. Okay. Mushrooms have spots, especially a mushroom like this one. The wrong layer again. This one. So I'm thinking, I reintroduce this as a kind of like texture for the mushroom effectively. So like make it more interesting than a big flat surface. Although I think the gray is a little too gray. If I blend this in a little bit more with the mushroom, saturate it a lot more and bring it towards red. And that's too much. Too saturated slightly, but the correct vicinity of the red. Your mum's a little too grey. You take that back. Now it has a little texture to it. And then we use these two colors more sparingly than I've done currently. Like, just kind of blend this as the base texture and then add a little bit of like these kind of highlights. Not feel iffy about this, but it maybe. What do you think of this? Nonsense, stupid, or I'm kind of I think the orange is too much. I think the orange, if I bring the orange, like this orange, if I bring it in line with the mushroom a little bit more, on like on the red side, I think that's gonna look a lot better. And then the white spots, too late to be messing with it, go to bed. I'll finish this idea because I think it's gonna be better than the flat I had. A few small light spots, yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to cook up. Maybe like this, then we can make some of them stick out of the mushroom, like mushroom shape a little bit. Then the ones that are too big and too like blobby, I can get rid of. One third more. Yeah, this definitely looks better than it used to. And then I can take that, darken it, turn a little this, and then add some to these, and that's gonna flesh them out a little bit more for basically free. Oh yeah. Hell yeah. A little adjustment on this. This should be a bit like that. Yeah, these dots will probably require some shading on them later, but I think for now that's enough. I like the blob. I like the blob Ori more than I like the shaded Ori, I'll be honest about this. I want to bring him back. We can do that, right? We can, oh, wrong layer. We can, this shit's crazy. That's right. We are, I have escaped from the insane asylum and I have a stylus and nobody can stop me. Wait, let's, like you see, he looks cute as a blob. He looks cute as a blob and he looks like a weird freak when I added all that other stuff. So maybe I'll just leave him as the blob from the previous version, because this looks nicer. Yeah, I think blob wins in this case. Maybe just add like a tiny bit of subtle, very subtle shading to him. You want the expert from this one, Nebu, if you're still here? Because I kind of started updating you on it just randomly. So, you know, might as well continue, question mark? Do I add subtle shading to this guy? No, because this looks horrible. Maybe the shading isn't subtle enough. Maybe I should go to bed instead of continuing. Maybe. Maybe. It's an idea. We'll put it in front of the committee and see what they think. Committee, not committee. Wrong. Wrong. Wrong again. Wrong again. You're always wrong. I'm thinking... Oh wait, this is like completely wrong now. Maybe like these subtle lines to flesh them out a little bit in terms of like shape. But these legs look wrong anyway, so I should probably stop for tonight. Because it's not like I'm gonna get much further anyway. That's better. Okay, okay. I figured something out. Then presumably it's that, and then presumably it's this. So that... Yeah! Yeah. Okay, look at that. It's... After a little tiny bit of crisis, I think I figured it out. We can give him little, like, fingers on this, maybe. No, he looks like a frog, so that's not the correct way to do these. Something like that. Something like this. What should my wife and I do for dinner? Well, there's an obvious question. It should be potatoes, I think. Yeah, like yeah, I think I've heard it from you, right? You love potatoes? Like potatoes, the best thing ever of all time. Potatoes. You wanna like have them all the time and do them all the time? Like potato, yes. I think that's a banger idea. I think that's gonna happen. All right. Okay. One more thing, and then I'll stop it. I want like, this little thing on the head. We do like a little bit of this, like just define the shape, and I think this looks mostly good. Yeah, I think we leave it at this. I think that's good. I think that's good. Shut up. You don't have to correct it. No, you don't have to touch it. You don't have to. It's good. It's good. We stop it. Stop it. All right. Let's see how I feel about it tomorrow. For now, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nice chatting with you again. Nice working on this for a little bit more, and we'll see how it goes the next time. That's the wrong end stream button. I was supposed to click the one in OBS.